Hello, and welcome to the All About Energy podcast produced by Acclaim Energy. My name is Stewart Black. I'm a vice president, and I'm going to be providing you with an update on grid reliability and the role of microgrids in the state of Texas. So everybody remembers last February when Winter Storm Uri revealed to the nation the complexity of the issues surrounding our grid and that effectively paralyzed our state. The freeze didn't create the problems, rather it exposed the weaknesses of an aging system that had not adapted with the times. The extreme low temperatures exposed every component in the grid that was not winterized, causing failures throughout the system from upstream gas production that supplied power plants all the way down to the consumer market. We have since experienced numerous warnings and failures, most notably during the summer months of June, July, and August, which is our peak season in Texas. If there is anything that we can take away from what we experienced last February, it's that Texas reliability cannot be taken for granted. The problems we've been experiencing with our grid are real, and they're not going away anytime soon. The grid must first overcome fundamental challenges before it can become more reliable. The state of Texas is growing in population and growing rapidly. Demand is increasing, weather volatility is intensifying, and the massive influx of intermittent wind and solar is replacing coal-fired power plants with no stable power generation to back it up. As a result of the February freeze, Senate Bill 3 was passed, requiring new emergency preparedness plans for water and wastewater facilities that qualify for critical load status. The installation of auxiliary generators was mandated for all counties in the state as backup powers for these critical load facilities, and compliance measures have been instituted. The burden of reliability no longer resides solely with the grid or the grid operators, but effectively has been placed on the consumer as well. Power reliability that serves these critical loads is not just a good idea, it's now mandatory. At the end of the day, it's not about just being compliant or checking a box, it's about addressing the underlying problems and finding solutions for the problems that undermine our reliability of our power system. Unfortunately, the Texas grid will continue to be challenged as Washington has set out to decarbonize the power industry by 2035. The increasing changing of the resource mix from to wind and solar is creating the greatest challenges for grid reliability and will continue to challenge the grid for the foreseeable future, especially as the electrification of everything escalates. Taking all of this into consideration, it's imperative that we be proactive to secure our own resiliency and contribute to the solution through demand and frequency response programs. With all of these issues at work, we find that grid operators are finding it more difficult to keep the grid in balance, resulting in an increased frequency of rolling blackouts and or major grid disruptions. Keep in mind that there are only two tools for an operator to use to really keep the grid in balance. Number one being taking the load off the grid, also known as demand response, and number two, adding power to the grid, or what is called frequency response. Demand and frequency response programs are becoming a more increasingly valuable option for grid operators as they navigate the improvements to keep up with the increasing demands. So what is a microgrid? Well, microgrids are an on-site power system interconnected with the grid and the plant, with the ability to be remotely dispatched, monitored, and controlled. These systems can island or remove the plant's load from the grid and supply power to the plant, while exporting the balance of the unused power back to the grid. The microgrid can provide commercial and industrial and government consumers with affordable power while providing grid operators with the tools for demand curtailment and or frequency support when called upon. So the bottom line is your load is a valuable commodity to grid operators because of your ability to either take the load off the grid and or add power to the grid on command. which in turn helps them reduce the load demand during peak periods of pricing and demand periods. Behind-the-meter microgrids can provide load management functions that can generate income by selling back to the grid and provide significant savings on energy-related expenses through programs offered and paid for by the utilities. So, as state regulators continue the journey of improving grid reliability, it is likely that these programs will continue to become increasingly valuable for the consumer and ERCOT alike. A microgrid solution can provide you with the ability to leverage your load, secure reliability, while showing returns on investment over time. So the bottom line is, you're essentially getting paid to secure your own resiliency while supporting the greater good of the grid. Well, I appreciate you all joining me today. Thank you for listening to All About Energy podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to share it with your colleagues. Acclaim Energy specializes in assisting organizations, helping them optimize their energy portfolio, mitigate risk, and capture the best prices. For more information, contact us at 713-524-0250, or you can visit our website at acclaimenergy.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, and have a great day.